And welcome everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to be sharing my screen here and we're going to kick things off. Okay, so my name's Lena. I'm going to be your moderator for the day, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining today's Modern Data Stack Showcase with Data.World, Snowflake, Fivetran, and DOS42. This event stemmed from Fivetran's Modern Data Stack Conference, where we covered a lot of high-level information. And as a follow-up to that, we wanted to host an event that dug a bit deeper into the technical aspects of the Modern Data Stack Showcase and how the different platforms work together. So I want to quickly review our agenda for today. First up, we have DOS42. They're going to kick things off with an overview of what exactly the modern data stack is, the different components that make it up, and why having one is so important. And then we're going to dig into the platforms themselves. We have 3 product showcases lined up, one from Fivetran, one from Data.World, and one from Snowflake. And these you're going to get to see hands-on how these different platforms work, from navigation to reporting, and really get to see the different technical aspects that make these platforms. After our demos, we're going to have the breakout rooms, and this is where you get to ask your presenters one-on-one live questions and have those conversations with them. So speaking of our presenters, let's bring them on stage. I'm really excited for our presenters today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and share a little bit about who they are and what they do in the industry. So let's start with, I see Carlos here. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself? Oh, I don't see Carlos. How about we go with Stuart?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Stuart Curver. I'm the Director of Sales Engineering at Data.World. I have been in the data catalog, data governance space for the last about 7 years, and then lots of elements of the data space before that. Looking forward to speaking with you guys today.
Great. Thanks so much, Stuart. Kay, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Cade Winter. I'm a Senior Manager of Sales Engineering here at Fivetran. I lead our Powered by Fivetran teams, as well as a few other sales engineering teams, and I've been at Fivetran for about 4 years. So happy to meet with you all today.
Great. Thanks, Cade. And Jeff, why don't you finish things off for us and introduce who you are?
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Springer. I'm a principal consultant at DOS42. And I've been with DOS for about 4 years now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for those quick introductions, and I'm really excited to just jump right in here. As a reminder to attendees, we will be sending out a recording of this afterwards, and please don't forget to share those live questions in that Q&A box you see at the bottom of your screen, and then you also have the opportunity to send some acknowledgement and recognition via those emojis you see there at the bottom. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Jeff, if you want to just take it away.
Excellent. Let's see if I can find the right one.
It's that double square box. It's at the bottom next to the camera. Should be.
I just need the right window.
Oh.
Okay, I think I got it. We've got aspects of the modern data stack there. Okay, so yeah, very excited to be here with everybody today. I really appreciate you all coming. Before we get started, just a little bit about who DOS42 is. We are a boutique data and analytics consulting firm founded in 2015 to bridge the gap between business and technology. And we focus mostly and exclusively on modern cloud-based analytics solutions. We have capabilities across the full stack of data and analytics, including data pipelining, data warehousing, BI, business intelligence, analytics, and data-driven applications. So what is the modern data stack, and really how does it differ from a legacy data stack? It's the question we're trying to answer today. Fundamentally, the modern data stack it's cloud-based, right? Hosted in the cloud, takes full advantage of the cloud's infinite scalability, enabling you to quickly meet growing data needs without costly and lengthy downtime associated with scaling your local or on-prem resources. Secondly, it's modular, it's customizable. It uses best of breed technologies first, choosing the best tool for a specific job versus an all-in-one or end-to-end solution. In addition, the components of the modern data stack are built with analysts and business users in mind, meaning users of all backgrounds can not only easily use these tools, but also administer them without in-depth technical knowledge or training. And the presentations that you'll see today from Fivetran, Snowflake, and Data World all epitomize these fundamental differences and enable you to quickly and easily get faster insights and make better decisions. So why is it important? Why is the modern data stack important for you to think about and implement? Well, we have been lucky enough to work with some really awesome customers like Uber, Walmart, Snapchat, Disney, HBO, and others to deliver against what we call our full stack philosophy. And these are the things that, irrespective of technology, we believe all companies should do to become data driven. And first and foremost is centralizing your data. Oftentimes, you have data that lives in third-party SaaS applications and data silos. And by liberating your data from these third parties and data silos, you're able to create a holistic view of your business. Fivetran does this brilliantly and provides best-in-class tools for pulling data from completely disparate sources. And it works closely with the Snowflake Data Cloud to provide you with robust data platform built from the ground up for the cloud. Right? So that first principle of the modern data stack. Once you have centralized, you're going to need to create a reliable source of truth, standardized metrics, dimension definitions across multiple systems, while also creating a trust and transparency by documenting those definitions, creating a data governance program, and automating data quality checks. We're going to hear more about this piece from the Data World team today. Next up is it's important to get the data to everyone in your organization. Remember that in the modern data stack, we're looking for the ways to democratize data and make it available to the people that really need it and when they really need it. So once you get data to your salespeople, your customer service reps, marketing folks, and others who typically can't code, all right, you got to make this data accessible to everyone. And then people are able to ask and answer their own questions quickly without being limited by IT bandwidth or getting stuck in what we call data breadlines in a centralized analytics team. Once your team has access to the data internally, it's time to start thinking about how to operationalize your data in new ways. This could be machine learning, predictive analytics, building custom data-driven applications. Doing this allows you to monetize and differentiate your product or your service, and empowering internal as well as external stakeholders with a curated and customized analytics experience. That's pretty brief and quick introduction to the modern data stack. I think what's really important is the tools that you can use to do that with. So I'm going to hand it off to Cade and the Fivetran team so you can easily learn how to get your data pipeline up and running.
Thanks so much for that, Jeff. I really, really appreciate you giving a quick overview there and teeing up Cade, who we can bring on stage here. And he's going to jump right into a brief overview of Fivetran and give a demo of the product. So Cade, I will let you share your screen and take it away.
Okay, awesome. Can you all see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. All right, so jumping into Fivetran, and what is Fivetran? So simple, reliable data integration for analytics team. Fivetran automates data integration and dynamically adapts to schema and API changes, ensuring reliable data access and accelerates analytics with ready-to-query schemas and managed in-house transformations. So what does all that mean, and how does Fivetran do that? So first, we're automated. Fivetran has over 150 native connectors that we're constantly adding to, and we deliver pre-built or standardized data to your destination. We're resilient. We deploy idempotent data and architecture to our platform to consistently deliver that data to your destination, and we're cloud native. That means all of that is completely managed by us, so you don't have to worry about any of it, and you can leave it all to the Fivetran team and our platform. So that's all great, but what makes Fivetran different? First is automatic data updates. So that's the DML. So we accurately and efficiently update your data in the destination by efficiently updating, by efficiently updating that data and having very minimal impact on your destination, and using very little compute. So across the board, we're using minimal compute, and across our competitors, when it comes to total cost of ownership, we see massive reduction, up to 60% reduction in the total cost of ownership. Automatic schema migration, something that has been a bane of the ETL pipelines for a long time, whether that's changes in column names, deleted columns, new tables, new columns in sources like Salesforce, your production databases, things that make pipelines really brittle. Fivetran handles those automatically and persists those changes to your destination. We're one of the only ETL providers today that does this for you. Automatic recovery from failure, idempotent. We use a stateful process to recover from any point of failure in the pipeline. So whether that's an API failure, a network failure, anywhere in the pipeline that a failure occurs, Fivetran will save our state so that we can losslessly go back to that point in the pipeline or in the sync process and recover, and so that we can maintain data integrity and continue our sync process, and again, preserve that high quality and high fidelity of that data. Micro batch architecture. We're very efficient and very cognizant of your source systems, as well as I already mentioned the destination systems. So on the source side, we want to be efficient with our queries and API calls. Again, we want to be good stewards to your source systems. We don't want to gobble up all your API calls, and we don't want to be a burden to your source databases. So we use a micro batch approach to calling your APIs and calling on your source system. And finally, extensible cloud functions. As I mentioned, we have 150 native connectors that we have built and maintained. We're continually adding to those, but there's a large ecosystem of SaaS sources out there. And sometimes there could be some niche esoteric source that we may not have a connector for yet. But with cloud functions, using things like AWS Lambda, Google Cloud Function, or Azure Function, you can extend the functionality of Fivetran's platform to pretty much anything that has an API, and take advantage of all those features that I just talked about, and use the powerful tools of those functions to pass a payload back to Fivetran, and then process that data through Fivetran's pre-existing pipeline and load that data into your cloud data warehouse. So a lot of great features here, but let's go ahead and hop into a quick presentation and take a look at this all. So hopping over here to Fivetran. First thing you'll do when you set up a Fivetran account is choose a destination. We support several different cloud data warehouses as well as RBDMS systems, and I already have a destination selected here. I have Snowflake, but when you set up yours, again, you'll select your destination. For Snowflake, I'd like to note you can select Snowflake here in Fivetran. We also have a Partner Connects feature within Snowflake, so it's kind of like a way of backing into a Fivetran account from Snowflake. So a couple different options there. Over here on the right, we have a setup guide. This will be the same for every destination and source. It'll walk you through any sort of prerequisites, any setup instructions. Here you can see for Snowflake, we have a script you can quickly run, get you set up, everything that you'll need to have to plug in Fivetran with Snowflake. So here for the setup guide itself, you'll plug in your host. See, we just have fivetran.snowflakecomputing.com, port, default 443, a user, a database, your auth method, password or key pair. I already have password, optional role, and then connection method. We have two methods here. Defaults is SSL or TLS, and then we also support private link. Right now, that's with AWS or Azure. And then a few other options here for Snowflake and your destination. Data processing location, we have US, EU, a couple APAC locations, Canada and the UK. Cloud service provider, GCP, AWS, or Azure, which region, and your time zone. Once you have everything configured here, you'll just do save and test. Once everything passes, your destination will be good to go. So I'll move on here, back. At any point in time, you can come back to your destination. You'll see the green light here that it's set up and configured. But typically, once your destination is set up, there's really no reason to come back and change it. But if you ever need to, it's just right here. You can go to edit connection details. It's right there for you. But for the purpose of this demo, we're going to move on here to connectors. So I'll click on the connectors tab. You can see here, I have several different test connectors set up. Again, a bunch of different sources here, from files, a couple databases, some marketing connectors. But I'm going to show you what it's like to set up a new one. So I'll click Add New Connector. Here we have all of our different sources. This is actually filtered by our most common sources. You can see Salesforce, S3, Shopify. We also have sources grouped by use cases. So we have databases, marketing analytics, so on and so forth. You can search for sources by name. So for this example, I'm going to do Salesforce Sandbox. So I'll click Salesforce Sandbox here and continue setup. And all I really need to do is give this a unique schema name. And this is because Fivetran is going to manage this schema in your destination. The schema itself and all the tables, Fivetran will create for you and manage. There's no need for you to go into your destination, create this beforehand or anything. Fivetran will create it for you, completely manage it for you, manage all the updates for you, like I mentioned, automatic schema migration. Anytime you add a column in the source, Fivetran will add that for you, table in the source, so on and so forth. Fivetran takes care of all of that for you. No need for you to do that for yourself in the destination. And then just like Snowflake, there's a setup guide over here on the right. But with Salesforce, it's really straightforward. I'll just click Authorize. It's going to use my Salesforce user license. I've done this a time or two, so it didn't actually ask me to log in. I was already logged into my Salesforce instance, so it routed me back pretty quickly. But assuming that I wasn't already logged in, again, it would have just asked me it would have redirected me over to Salesforce. I would have logged in, it would have authorized me, and then sent me back over here to Fivetran. So right now, it's just going through the final phases of authorizing this connection to my Salesforce Sandbox account, and we'll let this work its magic here for the last few seconds. And
I'm going to hop in here, Kate, while we're waiting because we have a few questions. Okay, so we had a question come in about the source target reconciliation. Does Fivetran have a framework to make sure that the source and targets are in sync?
So what we do with we do this through our sync process. We don't keep a persistent connection open from source to target. What we do is do that through our sync process. So we go through an initial historical sync, and then go through sync all data available in the source at that time, and then set our incremental cursors. So I mentioned that with our state process. So we set a state and then incrementally move that each time we complete we set it once we complete the historical sync. And then each time we complete an incremental sync, we move that once the sync is actually completed. So it's not a persistent connection checking back from source to destination. We only want to keep that connection open as long as possible, or as short as possible while we're extracting that data. But we do it through setting that state and checking the timestamps on where we left off from reading. So there,
Thank you for answering that question.
authorization finally went through. I think our all hands meeting ended, and I imagine a bunch of AEs are. This is a shared Salesforce sandbox instance, so but all of our AEs are probably on demos right now. So it's shared resource pooling here. So all right, so the connection went through. There we go. So now I'll just go to View Connector. All right, so next step here would be to review the schema. And so what I'll do with that is actually pick what tables and objects I want to sync from my Salesforce instance. So I'll open this up, and I can, again, pick and choose what tables I want to sync from Salesforce. Now, if you're familiar with Salesforce, you'll know that Salesforce has a standard data model with a bunch of pretty typical objects in there, but it's also very customizable, pretty similar to customizable in the sense of like your production database. So I can actually deselect every table in here or select specific tables. I can even search by specific tables. So if I just wanted to look for any table that included a count, I can filter by only selected tables as well. I can also open up a table and go down to the column level and select and deselect specific columns. So if I had a need for selecting and deselecting columns that maybe had PII or PHI, I could do that. So lots of different ways that you can select and deselect the data that you ultimately want to sync over to your destination. And you can do that here on the schema tab within the configuration of your Salesforce connector in Fivetran. So this, I'll do save and continue. And now I'll start the initial historical sync. So like I mentioned, with all of our connectors, we'll do an initial historical sync. And then after that, we set our initial state. And then we'll do incremental syncs from there, just taking anything that is new or changed from where we last left off from reading. So going through some of the features here of the UI, I can go to, first I'll click on logs. Logs, this is kind of the under the hood look of some of the major operations that we're doing. So you'll see some API calls that we're making, and any sorts of sensitive information. This is all obfuscated. You'll just see, again, some of those major operations that we're doing. You could keep track of sync progress and so on. Schema, you can always come back to that screen that I was just at and make changes to the schema selection that you just made. You can add new tables, remove tables, add columns. You can even come here to some of the default settings. By default, we include when new tables or columns are added, but you can change that and block and choose to add new tables and columns manually when you want to. Usage, you can see the actual MAR usage, the monthly active rows for this specific connector, and setup. So the main thing to call out here with setup is the sync frequency. You can select how often you want this connector to check for changes after the initial historical sync is completed. You could also resync all historical data, delete the connector if you wanted to, and then pause and enable the connector if you needed to. And then back here at the status page, realize I kind of skipped over that. You can see the historical sync running here. And once this is completed, you can see some of the stats here for the sync that's actually running. You can see the runtime, extract phase, the process phase, and the load phase. And you can break this down by hourly, by the day, or week. So that was a quick run through of the platform. Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Thank you so much, Kate. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you walking us through the Fivetran UI, and appreciate your time later in the breakout session. So reminder, if you do have more questions for Kate, at the end of this, you'll be able to ask those one-on-one. Next up, we have Stuart from Data.World. We're going to just keep rolling and keep things moving. He's going to be doing a demo of the Data.World platform. So Stuart, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Glad to be with you guys. Let me share my entire screen here. All right.
Perfect.
I think we're off and running. Am I good?
Yes, you're good. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Stuart with Data.World. I'm not going to do a bunch of corporate slide about our company. It's really easy. Our URL and our name are the same, so you can visit us at Data.World. We are one of the leaders in the data catalog space, and certainly believe we are by far the best data catalog for the modern data stack. So I'm going to walk you guys through both some user experience and technical aspects of that. But first, let's just set the table. For those of you not intimately familiar with catalog, I'll literally do 3 slides just to make sure we're all aligned. So, Cade's a good, cool demo was showing kind of the pipeline setup and the technical pieces, but you also need a data front office, as we like to call it, where your entire organization can really come and interact with what data you have, where it's coming from, where it's going, how it's being used. Can I query it? Can I look at it? And that is really where Data.World sits, right? Of course, you have all the many of those cool partners are on today, right? Of moving data around between systems into Snowflake. Right. And so what the data catalog allows you to do is to capture that metadata, allow your experts to provide additional context, to track a number of different things. And what's really different about our data catalog is that ability that those arrows you see on this diagram are going both ways. So not just ingesting metadata, but also the ability to set up a querying and data virtualization between these sources very easily with even better is it's super easy with sources like Snowflake and other cloud-based sources, as well as the ability to open that data and kind of pass that through to your BI and data science tools. So we are built to be the most open player in the sandbox. We really want to be able to connect and represent anything, and so I'll talk a lot about that in our demo today. So, when you think about what does the data catalog for the modern data stack have to be, right? It needs to be interoperable, right? That's there's a real theme here of you want to buy best of breed, you want to have the latest capabilities. You're not looking to buy, 40 products from IBM, right? So what does that mean, right? So you're likely thinking about things like data ops, potentially kind of data mesh and data fabric concepts to really bringing kind of more domain-centric thinking to the forefront rather than application-centric thinking, right? You're looking for cloud-native platforms, right, that are flexible, allow you to work agile, and then that are open, collaborative, distributed. So, the earlier speakers did a really good job kind of talking about some of these key concepts, right? And what we really, believe all of that leads to, and all of this is supported by Data.World, is that you really need to be a catalog built on a knowledge graph. Knowledge graph is the perfect fit of a technological stack to do this. And we are built on open source RDF knowledge graph to really allow a tremendous amount of extensibility and flexibility under the hood while keeping the user interface very easy to use. And that's what I'll show you today. All right, so let's, I just want to give you guys kind of some of our feelings about this, the space and how quickly it's evolving and how we relate to some of that. So I'm going to do a demo quickly in 2 parts. I will get through as much as I can here in my allotted time. I want to show off, the experience of what it looks like to use the catalog, to collaborate around it, to do data governance in a more simplified and agile way, to foster really the level of adoption and kind of data democratization that you're looking for. And then I'll talk a little bit more after that about more the advanced benefits of having a data catalog built on an open knowledge graph foundation. Okay, so let's jump into the demo. So I'm going to come over here first to this instance of Data.World where I'm logged here. I'll just blow up my full screen. That way we can do that. Maybe come in one, just nobody squints. You'll see here I'm logged in as Bob. He's an analyst in what we call Demo Corp, our little demo instance here. You'll see some kind of social media like timelines here, speaking of collaboration, where Bob can be aware of of different activity that's happening in the parts of the catalog that he frequents. Just quickly passing by, you see that we support kind of domain-centric, kind of that multi-tenancy, that ability to have different domains, different child companies, different departments have their own spaces within the catalog, and yet, have somebody like Bob be able to explore all of the ones that he's been given access to. So in this example, right, what does Bob need to do? He needs to educate himself, right? Catalogs are a lot about self-service education. How do I find out what I need to know about the data that's out there, about what was built, why it was built that way, who knows it, all of those. What does it actually mean to the business? Where is it being used? Those are those critical concepts that we're looking for. So let's say Bob has been asked to look into the data they're using in a certain commission dashboard so that he can repurpose that data for other analytical concepts that he's working on, right? So he has always an ever-present search bar here to start looking for something like commission. You see it's trying to type ahead and suggest answers of other things that match that string here within the catalog. Or of course, I can just hit enter and come to the full search experience. And what you're going to see here, oops, I accidentally scrolled down. What you're going to see here is a number of different types of resources that come back when I look for commission, right? So you see some business terms come back, some different definitions of that semantic understanding of like, what do we mean when we say a commission exactly? There's tables in here where we're storing information that's about commissions. There's columns and there's data sets, so active kind of live connections to data related to commissions, dashboards, all total data sets around Q1 commission transactions. So very quickly, I'm able to explore a wide array of things, right, to get more information. And I can easily just, even mouse over some of these to get a quick definition or a little more tagging or collection information to understand these assets as I think about them. I can filter on different things like their statuses, their tags, their collections, or any attribute that you come up with. This is a fully configurable faceted search. So that provides a very powerful kind of window into, no matter where the data lives, I can explore what it is, right? So here you see kind of a classic enterprise problem, which is I'm like, wait, there's two dashboards in Tableau called commission model, and which is the one? Now, the nice thing here is we can see one of these is approved, and you can use whatever language you want. Certified, has been verified recently, whatever kind of status markers that you want to use. And so that gives Bob more confidence that this is likely the version that he's been looking at. Now, as we come in here, we can see then there's a metadata record about this commission model automatically brought in from Tableau via simple metadata connection to their GraphQL API, right? And so then what we can do by cataloging that object, right, is add all kinds of information. And this is certainly customizable, configurable per customer. I'll show you an extreme example of that in just a second. Because your companies are going to have different types of attribution that you want, different facts over here, different role names, different things that you want to know as you evolve. And we are purpose built to enable those scenarios. And then I can scroll down. If you'd like to, you can bring through the API from something like Tableau or Power BI, the thumbnail image, that's the word I'm looking for, of the dashboard, if that's helpful. You can see what are related elements. So now Bob can see like what tables are being used in this dashboard, what business concepts are being used here. If I need to educate myself more specifically on what we mean by opportunity when I see it in the data. I can even see both simple and complex kind of scenarios with lineage. I can get much more technical here. You're seeing more business-friendly views. I can mouse over the different elements here to get a quick picture of what that looks like, or another, again, quick definition so that I can click through. So this is, again, allowing Bob to quickly go, okay, I know there's a commission model dashboard. It doesn't matter. I don't have to have access to it. But if I do, I could hit this view dashboard and use a link to jump over there. But if otherwise, he's like, okay, retail order. I think that's the one that I need to use for my analytical purposes, right? So now he can come and see what's been documented about retail order. Now, again, it's in our Snowflake instance. This was collected via simple metadata collector from Snowflake. Now we want to add context to that, right? Human understanding about, different elements about, is this data sensitive or confidential or more dynamic things? Like, is it currently popular? Are lots of people looking for it? And I can add notes about how to use it and how, and other things like, hey, if the timestamp looks weird, here's what you need to do. And this saves just tremendous amounts of time, for data engineers, for the business people looking for reporting, for analysts, all of the above, right? So you have clear, approved understanding of what you've got, and that's a first step. I call it a map level view of what do we have, why do we have it, where do we have it, all of those things. So as I scroll down, I can see columns that are in here. I can see data sets that are related, so curated data, kind of products that are available that contain this data. I can see all kinds of different things. Now I can also, quick time check, doing good. I can also, see, the dashboards that we just clicked over from that, business terminology, etc. So a whole lot that we can do here. Now, one of the ways we do kind of agile data governance, when you think about that, it's just not to try to put everything through massive kind of ivory tower 5-step workflows, which is what some enterprises default to, kind of out of often fear, but that can be very stifling to actually the communities that need to work with data. So instead, we do things like, hey, if you just need to suggest a change and say, hey, I recently made a dashboard that's not getting picked up here, like order details, right? I can come in and say, this order details dashboard's been cataloged in Tableau. I have that. It's related to this table. I want to suggest a change, right? Very simple call and response workflows, right? I made this yesterday, and please update, right? And then they don't have to know who they're sending this to or what to do, right? It's just a simple suggestion submitted. And then you see they've got a pending suggestion now appearing here. And they can see that. So that's one simple collaboration. You want to bar the participation and collaboration to be very low. Oh, I see something, I can say something, and I'm done, right? And then you also have the ability to have discussions, right? Just right here in line to say, hey, Tim's got a comment. He mentions Sarah in, she gets an email, says, hey, come to this link and check out the conversation, right? You can see different threads going on related to these elements. So highly collaborative places for both more business and more technical, and all the people now that are shades of that in between can collaborate around the data. And then the last piece that I really want to make sure you understand about the metadata is that we next flow over into the data itself for companies that are ready for that. Of course, it's not forced upon you. The ability to create curated data sets to say, hey, if you're looking for information about customer order history, I've made a curated, clean, documented data set. So think about your data producers out there that get asked all the time for the same types of information, the same types of data sets to do different reporting, right? You can put those ingredients lists out there, but not just as logical records, but even as live connections to something like Snowflake. So I'll talk about that shortly. So here we can see the metadata relationships. We can see that this shipping order dashboard is using this particular curated data set as part of it. I can see previews if you so choose. You don't have to show somebody who doesn't have access to this data what a few rows would look like. Super helpful. I can even view, some quick profiling of these different columns to say, okay, there's some sample values. How full is the data, right? So you get, again, basic, quick understanding to say if I want to use how fit for my particular purpose is this data. Now, the beauty here of this being through virtualization and federation is these 3 tables that are in this data set do not have to reside in the same schema or even the same system. 2 of these could be from your SQL server that's still on-prem, and one of these from your Snowflake instance that's now, coming to take over all of that activity. You have all of those scenarios available to you. Now, you can see here, Bob doesn't have access to this data set. So he can fill out a quick form. He can hit this button, fill out a quick form, request access, right? So you have control at a number of different levels that we won't have time to get into on this short little demo. But to control who has access, right? And you can control at each data set really who has that access. So then if Bob was already shared, I'm going to jump over in the story just to keep us flowing to a shared version of this data set right now. Instead, he has this explore the data set button. And that's because his permissions have been raised for him to have view or edit rights on this particular data set. And so now we come into our workspace. So now we're getting much kind of deeper into the actual data for your data engineers, your analysts, the people that need to see it, although there's plenty of interesting use cases for just business people instead of working in spreadsheets to work in more collaborative and visible ways. So here I can see this is a live view through virtualization, very simple to kind of allow this data.world connect to Snowflake and be able to see these tables within data.world, to be able to open up our query engine to do whatever join, whatever thing you might be doing. I'll just run this very quickly, this select star, right? It's passing this down to Snowflake and back up into data.world. Gives you lots of ability to ad hoc queries. So again, to get that feel for the utility of this data for my particular purpose. You also see I can save queries. So there's latest orders by customer. These are just some basic little demo examples. But I can write queries, I can save them. You see over here on the right, I can document them so that everybody knows kind of what I'm doing there, right? So I have lots of ability to produce all of these artifacts. They all live on the knowledge graph. It's searchable across a number of different ways, right? So that's the key thing to explain is we don't just sit at the metadata, we call it a metadata museum. We want to be a very active catalog that allows you to do a number of things. Now, I've got 5 minutes left, I believe, so I'm going to move over to kind of some of the more, technical pieces that go even beyond this. So what can we do with this ability to map the metadata layer view to give you a very semantic understanding with all of your logical entities and your physical entities kind of all into a knowledge graph, kind of map of what you have. Now, the beauty is we have that metadata layer and this data layer that you're seeing. So I have the ability to take these things a step further even. So we're going to get into some of those pieces. So first, I'll just take the data set a step further. So great, you have this curated data set. Well, maybe we need to do some collaborative kind of analytical exploration of the data, or maybe we're doing novel new combinations, right? So I have the ability to also create in data.world projects. So here is this little demo example. We're working on a question. Do we need to discount our shipping costs? This could also be, I'm trying to join data in some new way that I'm thinking about instantiating in my data warehouse. It could be anything really in that regard that you want to bring other people in. And again, make this all searchable so that I can 2 years from now, not have to look through Outlook, but rather look through here to say like, didn't we do a whole analysis on shipping profitability? And so what you see here is this living, breathing element that lives right with your metadata, where I can see like what's been going on, right? And what insights did this team actually reach? And Bob's pretty clear. We're overcharging on shipping, right? And he's got some clear comments and such to share with others about this. And that means this knowledge it lives on rather than it being thrown away and somebody the next year does exactly the same analysis from some other part of the organization. And so when we launch this workspace, I'll show you one of our kind of our fancier query pieces. Again, we fully support federated querying across all the different sources, whether you've loaded a spreadsheet into data.world, whether you've connected us to an on-prem database or your cloud data warehouse. We have the ability to do federated queries with very plain SQL across that. So an example of that here that I'll run is there's a quick join between some data I have in Snowflake, a Salesforce extract I have in Postgres, and an Excel file I downloaded from the UPS store. Right? And it's without doing any ETL, without moving the data around, except we're storing this Excel file, I can run that and bring all the data back together into a view so that, again, I can see like what are the interesting things that are happening there as we do it. And as I mentioned earlier, then I can even take and use the SDKs and the web data connectors of these different platforms, whether it's Google Data Studio or Tableau or Power BI or even just Excel, to pull that data through into that as well. So lots of really cool extensibility and capability there. All right, so lastly, I want to show you what it looks like even just to have a fully queryable knowledge graph as your backend, is you have the ability to go see the metrics of what's happening within your catalog, because there are no black boxes with data.world. It's all open. So we provide a data set. So we Sparkle query the knowledge graph, and we provide an easily explored tabular format of everything that's happening in your data catalog. So what are everything that people have viewed over the last 90 days? Every view by every individual of every URL path, right? What is every query that's been run and where are they running it? What is every search that's been run? So you're gaining kind of ambient intelligence about this. You can report out. You can show how much progress you're making in getting people into your new modernized data stack that are using those Snowflake tables. It's really kind of validating and helping your investment in all of these modernization efforts. So some really cool capabilities there I wanted to show. I promised before, I said, one of the things about us is we are immensely flexible. We'll model anything. It doesn't have to just be simple tables and columns. And one of my colleagues did a really cool example I'll just share if you want to see how flexible it is without doing any additional, code, just really the configuration. She built her entire recipe box application within Data.World's catalog, complete with, filters, object types, the whole thing. And so to give you, this looks good. I'm glad we're approaching lunchtime. To give you just a sense for how much. So if you're like, I want to catalog these APIs, these Kafka schema registries, these whatever the future may bring, the power of that fully open knowledge graph is vital. All right, I think I've pretty much run up against my time and I'm full of words. Hopefully that came across clear. I will stop my sharing. Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart. That recipe did sound really good. Maybe we can share that with attendees after this. Thank you so much, Stuart, for that amazing presentation and demo of Data.World. We really appreciate it, and hopefully you'll get some folks coming to you in those breakout rooms with their questions. Really excited to jump in our last and final demo. We have Snowflake up next, and Carlos is going to be presenting. So let's get Carlos up on stage here. And Carlos, if you don't mind just sharing a few words about who you are, since we missed you really at the introductions, just kind of your experience and a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Carlos Beloy. I'm a senior solution architect here at Snowflake. I joined in July 2017, and prior to that, I was at Teradata for 25 years. And I'm still located down here in San Diego, around the block from Teradata. Been around data warehouse for many, many years, and I'm so happy I'm here at Snowflake. It's a different architecture, it's contemporary, it's built for the cloud, and I'll go into that a little bit with you guys here today. So I'm going to need a little assistance in sharing my screen.
Sure, I'll hop on. So it's at the bottom next to that camera you see there. There's those two squares. If you just click that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. So to get everybody started, if you'd like, you're more than welcome to go out to snowflake.com, and in the upper right, you can start for free. One of the things about being a cloud data warehouse being delivered as a solution, you can easily start up an account. Go ahead and get that. You'll get an activation emails, and then you'll be able to join me when I get to the demo and actually navigate and get set up with Fivetran and continue on working with it and working with Fivetran and Snowflake together. Go into presentation mode. So talking about cloud data platform, Snowflake was a solution that's never been an on-premise solution. It was architected for the cloud. There's two basic characteristics of the cloud that when we architected the solution, we made sure that we wanted to take advantage of two main characteristics and benefits of the cloud. And one of those is unlimited storage. The second is unlimited compute. So not being restricted into how much compute you want or how much data you can make available to analyze, just being able to have it at a moment's notice to start working with it. Other requirements when it comes to the cloud is you just want it to be fast for any workload, right? And then you also want it to just work. And if you do sign up for the free trial account, you'll see you'll get it started and your account is set up and you're able to start working with it. And in a modern data stack, especially in cloud environments, you want that type of solution. You want to be able to start an account, and in this case with Snowflake, and just immediately start loading your data. And Fivetran is awesome for that. Once that data is loaded, you want to be able to start querying it. You don't want to have to collect statistics. You don't have to create indexes. You just start working with the data you loaded and start asking business questions. The other thing when it comes to Snowflake and the cloud, and just cloud in general, you want to be connected to what matters. And what that means is essentially eliminating data silos. being able to get your data into the cloud, being able to get not only your structured data, maybe data from your legacy data warehouse, but also data from your Hadoop systems, from other SaaS applications. Fivetran has, I forget the number of APIs that they mentioned, but being able to connect to ServiceNow, being able to get Salesforce data just easily into Snowflake and be able to ask business questions from your data across all of these data sources. Another aspect we'll talk about in a little bit is a concept called data sharing with Snowflake, and also eliminating data silos, in that not all the data has to be from your account as well. You can share data, or somebody from another account can share data with your account without you having to load that data into your account. They'll just send you a share, or you sign up for a share in our data marketplace, and that data just appears in your account ready to query. And I'll show you some of that as we progress, as we move forward. So Snowflake, if you look at general high-level architecture of what we look like, we have 6 core workloads that we support defined across the top. When we first came out, we were really a cloud data warehouse solution. But because of our capabilities, we quickly recognized that we can also be a data lake for customers, where you could store all your data in just cloud storage, simple storage, inexpensively, and you can access them with features such as external tables from within Snowflake. You can do data engineering inside of Snowflake, where essentially, rather than do ETL, we extract, transform, and load. You do extract, load, and then transform. And Fivetran enables this, also specifically with their integrations with dbt. And you'll be able to get some insight to that at the end there, and I'll explain how you get that. Then also, more recently, doing stuff with data science. When we first came out as a virtual data warehouse, as one of our core workloads, we started integrating with data science partners. We also came out with new features such as Snowpark. Now, when you're traditionally working with a data warehouse, you're usually working in a SQL environment. There are many engineers and data scientists that don't necessarily know SQL. They work with Java, they work with Python. And with Snowpark, we have enabled them to actually code in their language of choice and still work with Snowflake. And that's in our Snowpark feature. Then we have many partners that are just implementing data applications on top of Snowflake. And then the concept of data sharing is something that I already described. Now, as far as your data sources, essentially, you can use Fivetran to bring in any of these data sources on SI, your LTP database, your enterprise apps, as I described, third-party applications, your IoT data, all streaming and being ingested into Snowflake, and then making it available for all your data consumers. One thing about Snowflake, we are cloud agnostic. We run on top of all the 3 major clouds. When you access Snowflake, your account can actually span across multiple clouds, but when you're accessing Snowflake, you're just accessing Snowflake. Some of your users may be accessing Snowflake on Azure if you set it up that way. They may be accessing Snowflake on AWS, or all 3, Google, AWS, and Azure. We manage all the replication of data underneath, but essentially, for business continuity purposes, you work with Snowflake, and we manage everything underneath for you. And that's getting back to what I described as you want to work with us as a service. So Snowflake, well, I'm going to describe and kind of show you how a lot of this stuff gets set up. It's one of the first things you'll see is it's described here as ETL. You're going to start up a Snowflake account, and you're going to load data into Snowflake. These cogs that you see here, those are essentially referencing what we call virtual warehouses. Virtual warehouses essentially would translate to a warehouse that you might have on premise, except with our warehouses, they're just a metadata definition of what you want to name your virtual warehouse, some key characteristics about that virtual warehouse, such as size, and or how this virtual warehouse starts up and shuts down. The starting up and shutting down with Snowflake, you pay for only what you use. So you're not purchasing a subscription model where you just subscribe and when you use it, but it's always the same subscription price. It's more of you run a query, we start up a virtual warehouse. If that query is up and running for 10 minutes, you get charged for 10 minutes worth of compute. These virtual warehouse, as I described, there are metadata definitions of what a virtual warehouse should be, and they also directly relate to how much compute you're going to get, and that's defined by a virtual warehouse size. The virtual warehouse size translates to the number of servers in a cluster the virtual warehouse will run on in the cloud. A extra small would be a single server cluster. A small would be 2 servers in that cluster. A medium would be 4 servers, large 8 servers in a cluster, so on and so forth, all the way till you get up to 6XL warehouses. Now, I described that you may have a query that's running for 10 minutes or a load job that runs for 10 minutes, and that might be running on a small warehouse. You can define the metadata to change that size of the warehouse, maybe doubling the size of the warehouse. And so once you double to a large, going from a medium, or a small to a medium, doubling the size of your warehouse, that load should run in half the time. So although I'm being charged for 10 minutes worth of compute, if I double the size of the system and I'm getting a linear scale up, my job now runs in 5 minutes. I doubled the size, double the cost, but I have half the execution time. So I got increased performance, but the net of it is I pay the same amount. I pay for 10 minutes of compute on a small warehouse, or I'm paying for 10 minutes on a compute, well, really 5 minutes on double size the amount of compute. So it nets out to be the same. So we're linearly scalable. You can get increased performance, and really there's cost savings that you can, it's not going to cost you extra, essentially. Beyond that, what I'm trying to describe here too in the modern data stack is when you're working with these solutions in the cloud and built for the cloud, it's really a point and click, and you're really working with metadata, acquiring the resources you need from the cloud. And that's what I described in just redefining the metadata of the virtual warehouse. We go out and get you the largest size warehouse, you run your job, and you just got twice the performance speed up, and an associated factor of that, because of the scaling, it costs the same. The other thing here, as you see on these cogs, these are multiple virtual warehouses. You're going to start up a virtual warehouse just for Fivetran, your Fivetran warehouse here. The only thing that's going to run on that virtual warehouse is your Fivetran jobs, just because of the way we're setting up and configure it. Other things can run on that warehouse. You can use that warehouse for querying the data that you just loaded. But now you're going to have resource contention between your load jobs and your querying, the user querying the data. Well, with Snowflake, since you're only paying for what you use, why not set up another virtual warehouse just for your BI users? Now, in that scenario, when your BI users are querying the data that you just loaded, they're going to be running on a different cluster in the cloud that we acquire for you. And that different virtual warehouse could be a different size than your load warehouse. Now, as they start querying that virtual warehouse, they may start getting that warehouse worked up and busy and getting saturated. Since it's on a separate cluster in the cloud, your Fivetran warehouse will not be affected by your BI users. So there's workload isolation just built into our architecture in the way you leverage virtual warehouses in the cloud and how you define them for your different groups and business users. Same thing with your data scientists. You could have an extra large warehouse. Any workload on the data science warehouse is not going to affect your BI users or your ETL jobs, your load jobs. So you can load throughout the day, you can query throughout the day, and none of these users will conflict with each other. There's another feature within Snowflake called Zero Copy Clone for development and QA. You can create a clone of a warehouse, and a clone of a warehouse is just, once again, it's just a metadata definition of what this dev or QA environment is being created from. You share data with the production warehouse, but any changes that happen in your dev QA clone only are reflected in the dev and QA metadata. Your business users, your developers can work with it and will not affect production. And once again, they're all separate workload, all managed by Snowflake. So let's get into the demo portion of this and get you started up with Snowflake. If you signed up for your free trial account, you're going to have something that's probably we refer to as a license plate name. Hopefully you started an enterprise account. That will give you the most features available to you in Snowflake. You could have started up on the cloud of choice, AWS, Google, or Azure. But essentially you get your email, click on that link to get your account started. Specify a username and password. And you're going to be taken into Snowflake. Once you're in Snowflake, you'll have a couple of pop-up dialog boxes. You could clear those out of the way. But as you can see, you come in here and you're immediately popped into a worksheet. Now from this worksheet, I can now write in any SQL that I want. You can see here, we already have a Snowflake sample data set. This is a database that we share with you. I mentioned the concept of data sharing. This is a database that's within our Snowflake accounts that we share with accounts when they're immediately created. So you can just start working with Snowflake and you don't have to load data, but you can actually start querying, working with the TPC data, just start testing, running queries against these schemas. As you can see, we have the standard TPC benchmark data already loaded in our accounts, but shared with you. You didn't have to load this data, it's just there. And you can start running queries against these tables just to start playing around with Snowflake. From your new trial account, you'll see the databases that you have available. Here you can see you have the shared database. You get some insight to that, the multiple schemas that are there and the different tables. The shares, this is if you want to be able to share data, either incoming data or outgoing data, this is where you would do from. Concept of the data marketplace, to be able to go out there and acquire new data sets. Clicking on this and exploring this will take you to our new UI, so you can see the data marketplace. You can follow up with that on your own. We'll do that in the future. When we start up your trial account, we already created a warehouse for you. As you can see, it's an extra small size. It's defined with 1 cluster maximum. We could talk about clustering concepts if we have enough time, but we get into that later. Scaling, just different characteristics about this virtual warehouse. If I wanted to click on this warehouse and see how much usage it's been used, I can see that from this view. And I could also configure this warehouse. I mentioned increasing the size and t-shirt sizes for virtual warehouse. I could turn this into a small, finish, okay. And in less than a second, I have double the amount of resources than I had when I first came in here. And hopefully you can get the sense of what I was trying to describe earlier. When you're in the modern data stack and you're working with modern solutions and solutions that were built for the cloud, I just got a new system essentially available to me to go against the data. And in this case, we only have shared data in here. And I have twice the amount of resources available without having to install, configure, or do anything. From this UI, you go up to the right, you can switch your role to account admin. And as account admin, I'm going to have some higher level privileges available to me. I can click on this account tab. And from here, as account admin, I'll get visibility to what I'm being charged for by Snowflake, my usage, by warehouse, what's being used and how much is being used. Billing, I can create users from here. You can see we have a Snowflake account that's just temporary that we put in there so we get access. But then I have my user. You can create new users from this if you want to make this available for somebody else. Role-based access control, so you define security based upon roles, and then you assign roles to users. In this case, what I wanted to show you here, though, as account admin, there's a new button that popped up called Partner Connect. You click on Partner Connect, and from here, what you can do to get started with Fivetran is click on your Fivetran tile. You'll say Connect, and this will start up a trial account for you that's already connected to your Snowflake account. Now, in this case, since I have already done this with other accounts at Snowflake, I'm not sure if they're going to start up a new trial account for me here, but you guys should be able to get in quite easily. Once this is set up, you'll have a Fivetran database created for you. They'll create a Fivetran warehouse, extra small size, set up for you. A user, Partner Connect Fivetran user. And let's see if they activate it for me. So Not sure if that one's it. Let's go with that one. I don't have that right, correct. Well, you'll be able to get that configured on your own. I apologize, it's not working out for me right now. Let's say okay. Now, if I go back and click on warehouse, I see Partner Connect set up a warehouse for me. So when from my new Fivetran account, your new Fivetran account, when you're able to connect, you can start working with Fivetran, setting up your jobs. It will leverage the Fivetran warehouse. It creates a database out there for you. And that could be your target database if you choose to use it. And you're all set up and configured with Fivetran to start working with it. Now, if you'd like to get some guidance on working with Fivetran and Snowflake, we have, and we'll put it in a link for you. It's this, can't find it right now. I click on this one. You go out to quickstarts.snowflake.com. Essentially, it's going to take you to a bunch of quick starts that we put out there so you could start working with Snowflake and partner tools such as Fivetran. And you can see this automating data pipelines for Fivetran. And this will step you through exactly everything that I just described, starting up the trial account, using Partner Connect to start up Fivetran. If you do not have data of your own that you want to access, we provide data for you to start working with it. Integration with DBT, which is a valuable integration that Fivetran has and makes it easy for you to work with DBT. Setting up your transformations and loading your data and actually working with Fivetran and Snowflake together. So this is at quickstarts.snowflake.com. Please go out there, start working with it. You'll see how easy it is to work with, how easy Snowflake is to work with, and you'll be up and running and seeing how Fivetran is easy to work with, and you'll be up and going in the data cloud with Fivetran and Snowflake. So that's all I had. If you have any questions, I will be in the chat room to answer any questions. So right now I'd like to turn it back to Lena.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for that great presentation, and to all of our presenters for those presentations today. And that wraps up our presentations and demos for the day, which leads us into our breakout rooms. Once again, this is an amazing opportunity for you to ask the presenter those specific questions you have for them. So in a moment here, I'm going to be opening up those rooms, and you're going to see 4 different rooms to choose from, one for each of the presenting companies today. You're going to just select which one you want to enter, and you'll be brought into those rooms, and you will be able to share your audio and video and have those one-on-one conversations. We're going to keep the rooms open for around 10 minutes. So feel free to jump in and out of different rooms. And then I'm going to be sending a 2-minute warning to give you guys a heads up when we'll be shutting those rooms. So thank you so much for attending, and I will see you on those breakout rooms here in a moment.